Sunday, everyone. I am very glad that you could be here today. We're going to have some fun, and I am going to try something a little bit new with you today because I am making a birthday cake. So, who am I making a birthday cake for? Well, I'm making it for me, and since Dell was not really up to eating birthday cake, he was at work on his birthday, and then he had just had surgery on his elbow, so we didn't really do a birthday cake for him, so this is for both of us. And, you know, I tell you guys, now just a second, I'm going to adjust this camera here a little bit. I tell you guys often that keto baking should be kept as a treat, so here I am building a treat, and you guys get to be here to be part of it. So, we are going to be using 3 eggs for this recipe. The cake is likely not going to be out of the oven, but you know what? That's okay. It'll be ready, and I'll take a picture later so you guys will get to see it. Now, what we're doing today is we are making a spice cake, a keto spice cake, and we are going to be using my newest addition to the TSL Organics lineup, which is called Golden Latte Da. And I am really excited to tell you that it has been very popular, and I'm having a little bit of trouble keeping enough of it made. And that's a good problem to have. So, any of my TSL spices or spice blends, if you are needing to restock your spice cupboard, please let me know. We can definitely figure something out, especially if you're in central Alberta. We'll figure something out. But for right now, let's go ahead and build a spice cake. This is going to be delicious. Okay, now I try most of the time to have stuff kind of pre-measured, and this morning is not one of those days where I was able to do that because I kind of slept in a little bit. So you guys are going to have to be patient with me while I rattle around here and get measuring cups and get this all figured out. So here we go. Now we are using the scale because, you know, I tell you all the time, the only way to be absolutely certain that you are getting, here, let's turn this just a wee bit. The only way to be absolutely certain that you're getting the right amount of, oh, my sound is breaking up and the picture. Oh, we are not going to have one of those days today, are we? Well, let's hope that things get a little bit better. I am going to see if I can adjust this a little bit. Is that making it any better? Maybe it is. Okay. Okay, hopefully that's going to help us out a little bit here. So, we are going to use 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now, we're going to get the dry ingredients ready first. Okay, so there is 1/2 cup. So this is 150 grams, just in case you were wondering. A little more, a little less. Okay. There we go. 150 grams of almond flour. And we only need just a wee bit of coconut flour, which is right here. Okay, you know, there definitely is a huge benefit to having everything ready before we get together. So that is 15 grams of coconut flour. Now, this recipe, it is super important that you mix the dry ingredients together first, which includes the baking powder, because you want everything thoroughly mixed before you add your wet ingredients. So we're going to take, now this is homemade baking powder. You guys know I don't buy my baking powder anymore. And I need 1.5 teaspoons. And I measure this in teaspoons. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of a crunch because we don't want lumps of baking powder in our cake. There is nothing worse than biting into a piece of anything and getting baking powder. So if you're making your own baking powder, Keep it in an airtight container in the in the cupboard. And when you use it, you can just put it in your hands and go like this to get the lumps out of it. And it is going to pack down and get kind of lumpy, but that doesn't need to be a big deal because we can do this. Okay, there we go. So that is our baking powder. And we're going to use half a cup of Amson Naturals granular erythritol. Now, remember, I've told you guys many times, so I'm sure you know this already. I use granular when I'm baking because it has a chance to bake out. So, okay, just a second here. Do you like the sound of all of that rattling going on? I am going to have to get some more erythritol because I am getting low. And if you need half a cup, it's good if you grab your half cup measure, not your third. So double check and make sure that you're doing the right thing. Okay, there we go. There is half a cup. Now you can use xylitol, you can use monk fruit, you can use allulose if you're in the States. I'm still waiting for Health Canada to get their poop in a group and authorize allulose for use in Canada, but at this point they have not. So patience is a virtue, right? Now allulose, if you haven't heard of it, allulose is a new keto-friendly sweetener that does not affect blood sugar, and it's perfect for the keto diet. Okay, nope, not better. Well, you know what? If you are watching me on Facebook and you're having trouble hearing this, maybe try watching me on YouTube. I don't know. So, but I'm in lots of places. So I'm live at the same time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So any of those will get you. Now, I just used half a tablespoon of TSL Organics Golden Latte Da Spice Mix. There are no fillers in here, so if you're buying this from me, you are putting straight spices into whatever it is you're making. Now this morning, just to give this a little bit of extra oomph, I'm also using 1/3 cup of almond milk that I steeped yesterday, so it is also Golden Latte Da. And so we're going to use a little bit of this in our cake instead of just straight almond milk. It's going to give it that extra little... Okay, so everything is good on YouTube. Awesome. Okay, so let's get this mixed up. So these are our dry ingredients. So we have our almond flour, coconut flour, our half a tablespoon of spices, and our baking powder, and our sweetener, and we're just going to get this all mixed up. Now, we're going to put 3 eggs in here. It's important that you have your eggs at room temperature. So take them out half an hour before, and I set mine on a cloth on the counter, and that is so they get the warmth from the cloth and from the counter. It's not a lot, I know. You feel your countertop is cool, but it's warmer than the fridge is, so it's going to help bring the temperature of those eggs up. Okay, so we're just mixing this up, making sure that everything is thoroughly combined and we don't have any lumps of anything in here. Okay, now, first things first, we need half a cup of butter, 112 grams. And I need a knife to cut that with. Now I am using some of the butter that I got from the dairy that I was telling you guys about. And their butter is awesome. I love it. Okay, so here we go. We'll see. And it's really good if you zero your scale. And did I do that? No, I did not do that. Okay. That is 98, so we need a little bit more. You don't want to short a cake on fat. And if you are making any kind of a cake and it's turning out dry, it's because you don't have enough fat in it. So don't ever skimp on the fat on your cake. Okay, that is 119. And you know, even though we were going for 112, I'm good with 119 because those few extra grams of fat are not going to hurt anything. The only thing that they're going to do to this recipe is make our cake a little more moist. Now, into the microwave this goes. And we're going to put it in there for 30 seconds. And we'll see what it does after 30 seconds. And while we're doing that, we're going to measure 1/3 cup of our golden latte. Now, if you don't have this, or you would rather just use almond milk without the extra spice in it, that's absolutely okay. Okay, so 1/3 cup. And we are going to add that in. And we need 3 eggs. Okay. Now, always crack your eggs into a separate bowl because you never know if you're going to get one that maybe isn't good. So that way, not only, oops, okay, here we go. Not only can you keep an eye on whether or not the eggs are fresh and you want to use them, but also if you have a piece of eggshell in there, it is way easier to get out. So let's do this one at a time and then add them into the butter. And the butter is melted, but it's not hot. Whoops. Now, you know that all of the spices that I create, into the butter, all of the spices that I create for you at TSL Organics are organic. That's kind of part of the name. So I did get a little piece of shell in here. There we go. There. No more shell. And wipe my hands off. But I will tell you, as much as I say, if you can buy organic, please do. All of us are on a budget. So sometimes you have to choose what you're going to buy that's organic and what you're not. And for me, I buy 10 dozen eggs at a time. This is a keto house. We go through a lot of eggs. And I don't buy organic eggs. I don't buy free-range eggs all the time. Sometimes I do. But with the amount of eggs that we go through, that is one of those decisions that I have had to make for our household that is not organic. But you know what? We're still doing keto and we're still doing it well. And this cake, if you read the thing for this, keto and hormones and spice cakes. So what is the deal with that? Now here's our 1/3 cup of golden latte da almond milk. Now we're just going to make sure that we have all of this out of here because 1/3 cup is not very much. And we want to make sure that we get all of that yummy flavor from the spices that are in that milk. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to add in here is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. A teaspoon-ish. Little more, little less. Make sure that you get good vanilla. Put it in there. And if you're going to Mexico and you want to bring me back a liter or 2 of vanilla, please let me know because I need some more. I want some good stuff from Mexico. Now we're going to whip this up. Now my husband cannot figure this out, but I have a favorite whisk, and this is my favorite whisk. Let me see if I can show you here. This is my favorite whisk, and it's getting old and a little bit loose, and my husband cannot understand why that makes me a little bit sad, but it does. So it's weird how when you spend a lot of time in the kitchen, you have favorite things that other people wouldn't really care so much about. Okay. Now, we have our dry ingredients. We have our wet ingredients in a separate bowl. We are going to add those together. Just a second here. We're going to add those together so that they are one beautiful bowl of cake batter, and then we're going to get it in the oven. Now, with cake batter, you do not, especially when you're using, well, not especially, anytime, but you don't want to beat this up until it is just a smooth batter with no lumps. And, you know, part of baking a cake, and I don't care what kind of flour you're using, part of doing it well is making sure that the batter is the right consistency so that it has the ability to rise the way it's supposed to. Now, I am using a silicone cake pan, and I'm going to spray this with a little bit of coconut oil, and I'm going to spray it because I want it to be even. And where's my little bit of coconut oil? There it is. Now, one of these days I'm going to get an atomizer so that I can just use MCT oil, but right now this works. I don't recommend these sprays for a lot of stuff, but for this, apparently I'm recommending it. Okay. So there's that. Now, I sprayed the pan first because I don't want to incorporate the liquids until we're ready to put it in there, because we want it in the pan and in the oven as quick as we can. Okay, now I'm going to use a silicone spatula to stir this with because it comes off easier. And we're going to get this just beautifully incorporated in here. And these spices in the TSL Organics Golden Latte Dell, I'm really thrilled with that name. And I got to tell you, Dell came up with that name. So my husband is just quite brilliant. And he has an amazing sense of humor. Now you see, I'm mixing this, but I am not beating the tar out of it. So there's still going to be some lumps in there, but because we mixed all of the dry ingredients thoroughly, we know that there's not going to be a bite of baking powder or a bite of straight spice, or because everything is mixed in beautifully. Okay, now we're going to take our silicone cake pan. And we're going to pour this in here. Now, I'm doing one cake. You could do it in two, or you could do cupcakes. But we're going to put it in the oven on 350, and around the 25-minute mark, you want to start keeping an eye on this. It isn't just as easy as it used to be when we were using wheat flour, right? You need to keep an eye on this. You want to make sure that your cake is baked but not over baked. And if you're making your own baking powder, and I really hope you are, it is a single acting baking powder because you're not using all of the chemicals that the baking powder companies do. Okay, so we just level that out. We're going to throw this in the oven on 350 for 25 minutes. We'll start checking it then, so we won't be together then. But once I get this in the oven, we're going to chat about hormones. Okay, so in the preheated oven, and okay, keto and hormones and spice cake. What the heck is she talking about? One of the things about keto that is absolutely amazing, it is such a gift, is that when you do keto, you are helping your body to work optimally. And that includes hormones. Now, one of the things, hi Dell, I'm glad you made it. One of the things that most people know is that keto is wonderful for type 2 diabetes. It's wonderful for heart disease and high blood pressure. Well, the reason that it's wonderful is not just because it gets in there and acts like, I don't know, like what, but The reason that keto is wonderful is because it reduces the inflammation in your body, and it lets your body operate the way it's supposed to, which includes regulating hormones. And the hormone that is responsible for metabolic syndrome is insulin. And if your insulin is off, if you have metabolic syndrome, there are a lot of hormones that can be all out of whack. And that includes progesterone and estrogen and estradiol, and I'm probably saying that wrong, and DHEA, and all of the sex hormones can be affected by this as well. So why is this a big deal? Because you can go to the doctor and get that tested and get a pill or a shot. I would prefer not. But no matter what age you are, if you're a young woman, if you're struggling with PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, that is absolutely a symptom of metabolic syndrome. If you are a little bit older, you're done having your children, but you're finding that you're having a lot of cramping, or you've got a lot of facial hair that's growing that wasn't there before, or maybe you are not as anxious to be sexually active as you used to be. Now, granted, that can be because you have 2.5 kids running around your house driving you crazy and waking up in the middle of the night, but it can also be because your hormones are off. And when you get to the point where you're dealing with menopause, still hormones, and you will be told that it is just a natural part of life and things change and you're going to gain weight, and yeah, that is partly true, but mostly not. It is absolutely 100% accurate if you are eating a carb-heavy diet. But if you are eating a low-carb or ketogenic diet, now keep in mind, keto is the extreme end of low-carb. So if you are eating a low-carb, 50 to 80 grams of carbs a day, which for me would be a ridiculously high amount, and I'd gain all kinds of weight and things would go all wonky. But that's me. And it depends on how active you are. Are you an athlete? If you're an athlete and you're running 10 miles a day, you are definitely going to be doing things in a different way, and you're going to be having different struggles with your hormones. But the fact that you are slim and trim and athletic does not preclude you from getting heart disease. It just doesn't. So, you hear stories all the time about somebody that was out for a jog that jogged 5 miles a day and they dropped dead of a heart attack. Well, how is that possible? So, the thing that we talk about most, especially in my world, is heart disease and type 2 diabetes. And heart disease includes high blood pressure. But there are all kinds of hormones in our body that are affected by our diet. Cortisol, the stress hormone, dopamine, and serotonin in our brains. If you're eating things that are carb heavy, if you are eating things that are highly processed, that have highly processed seed oils in them, you are stopping your body from working properly. So I'm going to give you an analogy to help you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Look down at your feet. What size shoe do you wear? Now, whatever size shoe you wear, you have a foot that's this big, however big it is. If you get a tiny, tiny little pebble in your shoe, in your sandals when you're walking, how quickly do you stop and get rid of that tiny, tiny, tiny little pebble? And why do you stop and get rid of it? You stop and get rid of it very quickly because it's incredibly uncomfortable. Even though it's tiny compared to the surface area of your foot, it is making a huge difference in your comfort. It's making a difference in the way you walk. So you get rid of it because it's doing damage. It's causing pain. It's causing discomfort. Well, the same thing is true if you're not eating a diet that's optimal for human health. It's like having that little tiny pebble in your shoe, and maybe you're only 18 or 20 years old, and it isn't a little pebble, it's a grain of sand, and you're not really feeling it too much. But eventually, that little grain of sand is going to do damage too. And having hormones that are a little bit out of balance when you're young, a little bit more out of balance when you hit your 30s, a little bit more with your 40s, and more 50s. It keeps, if you keep doing to yourself what is doing damage, the damage will multiply exponentially. So if we give damage numbers, and the first little bit of damage is a 1, and it keeps working so that it's a 2. It doesn't go from 2 to 3, it goes from 2 to 4, because all of the damage is increasing. Now, I want you to remember that I am not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a nurse practitioner, but I also do not have type 2 diabetes anymore. And my husband does not have heart disease or high blood pressure anymore, at least none that is identifiable on a coronary artery calcification scan. And if you are 40 years old, whether you're doing keto or not, I highly, highly encourage you to talk to your doctor about getting that CAC scan done. It is the best tool that medicine has right now to identify any coronary artery disease. And if you know what's happening, then you can do more to fix it. So maybe you're eating 40 or 50 grams of carbs a day, but your blood pressure isn't really doing what you want it to do. Maybe this is going to help you figure it out. You need to do the best job you can do for you. And that includes doing your research. So if you've listened to this and it makes sense to you, please don't just take my word for it. I want you to do your research. I want you to do your research on the ketogenic way of eating and hormones and the benefits. And if you're regulating hormones when you're in menopause, that's helping to reduce hot flashes. It's helping to reduce night sweats. It's helping to reduce facial hair. It's helping to reduce all kinds of menopause related symptoms. Now, is it going to fix it and take you out of menopause? No, I'm pretty sure it's not going to do that, because to everything there is a season, right? But being as comfortable as you can be, being as healthy as you can be, and not just for women, for men too. If you've never heard the term andropause, I highly encourage you to look it up, because as men get older, their progesterone levels change, and their testosterone levels change, and their estrogen levels change. And yes, I said estrogen. Sex hormones are in both men and women, but different amounts, right? So do your research, do your homework, do the best that you can do for you. And spices like turmeric and cinnamon are wonderful for help balancing hormones. Guess what is in my Keto Latte Da? It is all spices that help improve your health, that help reduce inflammation, that help balance hormones, that help you stay healthy. So you can do this with spices in your cupboard. And if you're thinking about sending an order to me for spices, please check your cupboard first. And if you have a whole bunch of something, please don't order it from me. As much as I would love to stock your spice pantry for you, I want you to use what you have, unless it's too old and you're going to toss it out, in which case, more than happy to help you. But I don't want you to buy things and leave it sit there so it loses its oomph and its beauty and its scent. And yeah, you want to use spices when they're fresh. So I am going to wait for this cake to come out of the oven, and a little bit later on I'm going to make a cream cheese frosting to put on top of it. And when Dell gets home tonight, we're going to celebrate each other. Maybe not a birthday, but we're going to celebrate each other, and we're going to do it with a spice cake treat, and I will put a picture of it on the Facebook page so you'll be able to see it there. I hope all of you do your very best to live your best version of this shining life. That's what I'm going to do. And a little bit later today, I'm going to try my hand at making beet green kimchi. I'll keep you posted on how that goes. Happy Sunday, everyone, and I hope to see you here again on Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Not real sure what we're going to be doing, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be yummy, and by then I'll be able to give you an update on my beet green kimchi. We'll see you on Wednesday and again on Friday. And this Friday, now this past Friday, I've got to tell you, I wasn't here with you for very selfish reasons. I had a hair appointment and that just needed to be done. So have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful Sunday. I will see you Wednesday morning, 10 a.m.